Well, Bellinter House, of course, I was born and reared here. And of course, I have very, very happy memories of this place. I think you get certain houses mightn't be happy, but it was always known as a very happy house. And I think the people, the Prestons who lived here, Lord Tara and the Prestons, my grandfather, my father, myself, we were all very happy here, and my sisters. And we never had a lot of money, no, but we had a very happy time here. And Bellinter, it's got a lot to it. It's one of the last houses that Castle's built in Ireland, and it is a very, very fine building in a very good situation. And it has a lot of old association too. On the estates of Bellinter, what Tara was on the estates, which was very interesting as one of the landmarks of Ireland. And there were, I think, about 10,000 acres on the estate. My grandfather, when he inherited, about 10,000 acres. Then it was sold, when all these places were sold to the tenants in 1903 in the Wyndham Act, that was sold, and it left about 1,000 acres on the property then. Well, of course, the hunting, you see, was very, the Tara Harriers are an old pack. They were originally the Bellinter Harriers. They were started by Lord Tara when this house was built in 1750. He built a very fine kennels just down the way, and at the same time, and that was the start of the Bellinter Harriers, which are now the Tara Harriers, and I have the distinction. Well, my grandfather, when he was left this place by the last Preston, John Joseph Preston, he continued on as master of the Tara Harriers. Well, it was that time that it was changed by John Joseph Preston. In his will had left, I don't know why, but had left a thing that he'd prefer that the name would be changed from Bellinter Harriers to the Tara Harriers, which happened in my grandfather's time, but it is the same hunt. And they are a very old hunt, gone back to them. And my father was master for some years, and they went into abeyance for a little while out at the First World War, started up again, and I've been master now for 70 years this year. Oh, well, these hunt balls, we had several hunt balls here, and for the Tara Harriers and for the Meath hunt. And the house, it gave itself very much to a hunt ball. And the hunt balls at that time in private houses were very, very sought after. In fact, it was very hard to get tickets for them because people loved coming to private houses. And we used to get, as I told Mrs. Lawler, who was famous in Naas, she used to come that morning, set up in the basement, and she would supply a very fine dinner for 400 people. We'd have 400 here. It's hard to believe, in two sittings. And then we would the dancing was in these two rooms here, and the bar, the general bar was upstairs in my bedroom, which left a little smell for a while afterwards. The story was that my grandfather, who was very much liked and very popular with all the locals and everything, and very much liked, and apparently they had a party one night, and there were and someone in the party bet him that he wouldn't ride his horse up the narrow staircase, and I suppose there was a certain amount of drink taken, and the story was that he took them up for this bet. Well, now it's hard to believe, but I suppose it could have happened. But the story was that he did ride his horse up. But of course, when he got to the top, there was no way that he could get the horse come down again. I mean, it sounds very nearly impossible to ride up, but to ride down would have been impossible. So the story was that the horse had to spend a couple of weeks up in the attics, and they put a big beam across the top to, and a pulley, and they had to let the horse down on the pulley to the center. We had a very famous butler who was Italian, and this was a very extraordinary story, actually. He was from a very good family in Italy, Turin, I think Turin his family came from, and there were troubles there, and they came in, and his father was murdered in front of him, and he got a stiletto through his head. He was only 14 at the time, but he survived and fled the country. And he arrived up in the north of Ireland, and this would have been 1903. And my grandfather was looking for a helper, for a butler, and he saw in the paper this ad, and he got a hold of Macquarie, and he came down here, and he became very much ensconced here. He was a wonderful man, very, very popular with all the locals and everything, great character, and he, as I say, he did his job wonderfully and became an institution for my aunts and things, and all brought up with him before me, and they all loved him, great character. And then when the war started, in the First World War, he said, "Oh, I must go fight for my country." And he went off anyway, and my parents, my father had rented this place at the time, and he was living down in Tralee. And anyway, they never heard anything more of Macquarie, and they were down in Tralee, and they thought, well, he'd been killed, and they'd heard nothing more about him. And in 1919, down in Tralee, who walked in on a Macquarie, and they thought they were seeing a ghost. They said, he said, "I could not leave you, master." So then he was with us from all that time up to, brought my two sisters and myself, and we all loved him and so forth. And then when I got married in '47, he was here when my first wife was here for some years, and a telegram came this day, and it was all in Italian. All I could write was "Decissimo." So anyway, he came up to me. "Oh," he says, "I am the last, I am the last." I didn't know what he was talking about. He never married or anything. I said, "What do you mean, you're the last?" "Well," he says, "my sister has just died," he said. And she was married to a great nobleman in Turin who owned a huge place, a palace nearly. And he had no near relations, and he was left the whole place, which was quite extraordinary, this huge place in Turin. So we saw him off. I think that would have been in 1952 or so. We saw him off, and we were very sad because we thought he was over 70 then, and we thought, well, will we ever see him again? So off we went anyway. I used to get an odd letter from him, and which was rather pathetic. He said he did not let in there. He wanted to come back to Ireland. He says, "All they want is my money here." "I will come back to Ireland and buy a little place and everything." So that was in his mind. And then he says, "Oh, they want my money. Anything I have will go to you."